Beep, 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 beep. Hello, good peeps. Welcome to the Court of the Edijester. Now, what we've got here is something about Rachel Reeves, who's that, Chancellor of the Exchequer. Rachel from Accounts. I love that people do that. Rachel from Accounts, isn't that superb? Now, if you truly want to understand what's going on here, I recommend, if you've not already done so, that you watch one of my videos from a few days ago called EDI/versus Die, a threat to us all. You can find that on my channel. This is, I think it was only about 3 or 4 days ago, maybe a bit more because it's Christmas, but have a look and see. I would honestly recommend, if you haven't watched it, that you watch that first, okay, to get a full grasp on what this bloody awful woman's up to. So the headline goes, Rachel Reeves told to halt diversity drive that will cost City $1 billion. Tory frontbenchers write to Chancellor objecting to regulations which will force firms to collect data on inclusion. Right? Rachel Reeves is being urged to halt a diversity drive officials estimate will cost the city up to $1 billion. She ain't going to halt it, mate, because that's what they want. They want you crippled by bureaucracy. That's what they want. It's how they bring on the utopia. Right? This is DIE, diversity, inclusivity by whatever group you're in, and equity, which of course is murderous. If you've watched my other thing, you'll know what I'm talking about. Regulations that will force financial firms to collect and report diversity and inclusion data threaten British competitiveness and erode meritocracy. The Chancellor has been warned. You're damn right, it erodes meritocracy. The Warrior Teacher motto: MITE, M-I-T-E, meritocracy, intelligence, talent, and excellence. That's the Warrior Teacher motto. This is anything but that. This is the end of meritocracy. That is what has been going on here. In a letter to Miss Reeves, 3 members of the Conservative front bench point out the proposals are based on scientifically unsound, contested ideological principles. What a surprise. The Labour Party, ideologically possessed. They're already screwing up education. They have every intention of screwing up education. They're certainly not talking to Catherine, Burble saying. But it's the ideology that's driving them, the ideology of equity, the ideology of, this is a communist ideology. It's that simple. Call it what it is. The new regulations drawn up by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, and the Prudential Regulation Authority, the PRA, require firms to report sex or gender of employees, as well as ethnicity, age, disability, religion, and sexual orientation. Why don't you just F off? Right? What the public needs to do is to say, I'm not filling out that damn form. It's none of your goddamn business. The only one of those that actually matters, the only one that actually matters in any real way is disability. Right? And we've still got people that can't get in the damn building. It infuriates me. I've said this before. It infuriates me. When we do our, because we explore and study disability and the history of disability on the Warrior Teacher program, when we do that, it becomes so apparent that there is brilliant work being done, but also that there is stuff that goes against it. And what goes against it is collecting all this nonsense about bloody protected characteristics and what, race and all that rubbish, because it gets in the way. Imagine what we could have done if we'd had this money for disability. It really upsets me. The FCA also wants firms to recognise a lack of diversity as a non-financial risk. Just screw off. Screw off with your nonsense, right? The only diversity that matters is diversity of thought. That's it. Right? With the exception, once again, of disability, in which case anybody who is registered disabled, and I don't mean has opted into disability, I mean registered disabled, can then be assured of an interview and reasonable adjustments to do their work. The rest of it's nonsense. But Miss Reeves has been told the regulations are at odds with the government's growth targets and promises to reduce red tape for businesses. They've written that bit wrong there. They're lying through their teeth. They say one thing and then they do another. Left hand knows exactly what the right hand's doing. Andrew Griffith MP, the Shadow Business and Trade Secretary, Mark Garnier MP, the Shadow Economic Secretary of the Treasury, and Claire Coutinho MP, the Shadow Women and Equalities Ministers, have written to the Chancellor urging her to intervene and stop these regulations from coming into force. We believe that these proposals, if enacted, would damage the City of London and the wider British economy. You think? What should we do? Let's introduce some communism into the system. Right, what's that going to do? Screw everyone. Right, so they want to inject it. It would damage the City of London and wider British economy and would contravene the FCA's strategy objectives, as well as being beyond its legal authority, they wrote. The regulatory and administrative burden these rules would impose on firms would take resources away from serving consumers and divert them to regulatory compliance, which would be detrimental to consumer welfare. You'll remember in the video, the micro teach that bloke Barry did, the micro teach about EDI versus DI, a threat to us all, in which we discussed tick boxing, in which we discussed immutable characteristic differentiation and the dangerous nature of this thinking. You'll remember that in the video that I previously did. This is what they're up to. Regulators acknowledge the costs. The MPs pointed out that the city regulators acknowledge in their own impact assessments the measures will impose significant costs, adding, combined, the regulators estimate these proposals will cost businesses a net $1 billion. We need to stop wasting money on this nonsense. I put up a tweet the other day saying, right, employers need to grow a pair in the new year. Fire the woke and take the hit. I think that's true. Fire the woke and take the hit. Stop fanning about with these people. The FCA estimates that the one-off cost to firms to introduce the new regime will be $561 million, an additional $317 million each year. Meanwhile, the PRA, that's the prudential lot, forecasts that it will cost the firms it regulates $75 million in one-off costs plus $58 million in ongoing annual costs. These people. Honest to God, if there isn't every Labour voter in this country should be hiding their head with shame. Absolute shame of this archaic 20th century belief system that has hurt so many. The Tory MPs also pointed out that Labour ministers had promised to cut red tape for the city and the regulations would appear to contradict such pledges. Gosh, the Labour Party saying one thing and doing another. Oh, imagine it. I am Jack's complete surprise. The proposed regulations would threaten British competitiveness, erode meritocracy, and embed scientifically unsound and contested ideological principles in regulations. They wrote, they not only appear to exceed the statutory powers, but would also directly contradict the statements made by government. Absolutely right. Earlier this year, Kemi Badenoch argued the proposals were counterproductive and would stifle Britain's growth. In April, as business secretary, she wrote to the FCA and PRA, urging them to rethink the proposals. An FCA spokesman said, get this, to be competitive, financial services must attract and promote the most talented. Right? When we consulted, we noted fewer than 1 in 5 senior positions in banking, capital markets, and payments were held by women. We recognise there are a range of views on this proposal. Right. So what? Hang on a minute. To be competitive, financial services must attract and promote the most talented, but we've also got to make way for more women. What if those women aren't the most talented? They're using this as a niche issue. It's not about women. You know as well as I do, the bloody Labour Party thinks women can be men can be women. It's insane. We've prioritised our work on non-financial misconduct. For example, sexual harassment. We'll set out the next steps in 2025. This is the politics of grievance. This is the politics of DIE. This is the politics of misery. This is the politics of low expectation. This is the politics of a government who is so moribund and so steeped in the 20th century that it does not even know what the future looks like. It does not even know. A Treasury spokesperson said, economic reform is needed if we want to unlock the full growth potential of the British economy, and regulation is a critical part of that. Whilst operationally independent from the government, we are determined they can help serve our number one mission of growth. The government is working with financial services sector to set out the first ever UK financial services growth and competitive strategy. That plan will deliver sustainable, inclusive growth for the financial services sector and secure the UK's competitiveness as an international financial centre. The PRA declined to comment. That's rather wise of them declining to comment, I think. Really wise. This is stakeholder capitalism. Stakeholder capitalism, ladies and gentlemen, is a lovely new way of saying communism, just like the abuse of children is now gender affirming care. Don't trust them an inch, right? We keep fighting. New Year's coming. We got to do that whole thing about what's your top 10 films, right? Top 10 kneecappings. You know, we've got to do that. That's what's coming. I hate that. New Year's bloody Eve. I'm such a misery. Let's get into January and get back to work. I'll see you later. Bye, folks. Thank you.